Hi everyone, we're back for another Art Support Conversations. This week it's Faux Pas, who will be joining us in just a moment. Okay. Hello!
This is the bit we should have prepared.
Greetings.
Do your setup now, it's fine, you're only live on camera.
Yeah, no, it's fine. This is live TV, this is what it's like.
I've probably done much worse things in a live scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, don't worry. Alright, doing alright. How are you guys?
If we lean back, that works. Hold
Yeah,
it.
that's good. Actually, because we've done where we've had more than one person on, and it's just sort of like a bit like this.
Half and half.
Doing all right.
Territory.
Yeah, you're doing all right. Oh,
Good.
Yeah, how are you doing? How is life treating you right now?
I am personally been treated pretty well by life and its various treats. In some respects, obviously not to. I understand lockdown's a very complicated situation, but I'm bobbing along. I somehow got let back into university despite not submitting a single piece of work last year. So
Whiskers is going to be listening to this.
Oh really? Oh,
and
sorry.
he told you to finish uni.
Yes, but yeah, I like to think that God reached down from heaven with his magical claw and gave me a little tickle, and yeah, that's where I am.
Positive vibe.
Yeah. I'm as good as I can be. I'm actually in the middle of writing my dissertation. I say writing, I'm actually doing a video essay because I do filming at university. So I'm in the middle of doing my dissertation, which is quite stressful, but
yeah,
it's fine. We're getting there. I've got about 5 days left to finish it, and I'm maybe halfway through, so we'll see. But yeah, no, I'm pretty good, thank you. What about you, Linz? How are you?
Good. Yeah, I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, not too bad. Just cracking on with Launchpad stuff, music leads, Magic Mountain, all the rest of it. But yeah, all good. So I guess I should just do a little introduction. So obviously there's people joining us now, but then people can watch it back later as well. So this is actually the last one of our Artist Support Conversations for now. And yes, we've got Joe and Ru from Faux Pas. Joe's the manager.
I am.
Yeah.
Manager, yes.
Ru, how would you describe yourself within the band? Keep it short.
I'm trying really hard not to say the words "the talent," but then that's all that comes.
Be genuine. I would say
Bringer of Sonic Joy.
No, I'd say you're the wild card.
Yes.
Okay.
Card. Yeah, that's what you. Yeah, no, I sing and play guitar.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, so yeah, we're going to have another chat about basically about support that you've had, everything ranging from opportunities to do stuff, advice, mentoring, funding, all of that kind of thing. So we're just trying to we're trying to sort of highlight what's available and out there, especially for Yorkshire artists, because Launchpad is a Yorkshire-based emerging talent development program.
Yes.
And I'm Linz as well, by the way, for other people that didn't get that. So do you guys want to just tell us a little bit about maybe like some of the first support that you've had or you feel like made an impact for you?
Yeah, well, I think first of all, it'd be rude not to go any further and mention we are not like a two-man band. I like Lynn said, I've managed Faux Pas. Ru sings, plays guitar. We've also got the lovely Lewis Egdahl on lead guitar. I'm just going to come up with a new adjective for each one of them.
Yes.
If I can, I'll do it. It's the same. The effervescent Joey Leyland on drums, and the absolute stud muffin that is Arthur Boyd on bass. So that's the rest of the band. What I've done that and I've forgotten what you asked. What did you ask? What help have we sort of had?
Yeah, maybe what was like the first thing that you received as a band, or what sort of started you off maybe seeking out support? Oh no. Hold on, we've lost them.
It's either our signal or it's their signal.
I don't know.
that last bit again.
So yeah, where you feel like you got started with support and advice, and maybe what made you look for support as well.
Well, I think the first contact we had with anyone from the sort of Music Leeds Come Play With Me Launchpad kind of region was I applied. Well, our lovely friends in the band Brooders did a Come Play With Me singles release, and we love those guys. So we were there on the launch night. I think I was actually
we played the show.
You guys played, and I was there, not managing at the time. I think I was just being a roadie or a groupie.
Either way.
And yeah, and so that was our first sort of interaction. But then I applied. There's like the online forms where you can apply for Come Play With Me singles club, and just applied. I think I actually applied to have Gorilla Man on the vinyl, the one we just released.
Yeah.
And then anyway, yeah, I think we actually came third, and Come Play With Me chose two others, and one of them couldn't do it. So that's the only reason we got it. But that is the life's little coincidences. So yeah, we got contacted by Come Play With Me, and they were like, yeah, we would really like you to be on it. We love the act, but maybe a song that is a better representation of the band.
Yeah, because even though I know they like to do a lot of stuff where they'll do releases where both sides of it will be completely different to one another, but Gorilla Man is very much like a completely different kind of stroke from us, for want of a better adjective. So yeah, they basically said to us, is this a track you want to use, or is there something else? And then we had Ego sort of waiting there for a while.
Yeah, so we applied for that and got that, and then I think we were going to Unconvention, which is now or would have been this year, would have been Launchpad, I think is what the name of the event would have been called. But back then it was called Unconference, where, not Unconvention, that's the Manchester one. Unconference. It's live, oh no. Unconference in Leeds, and we bumped into, I think we'd sort of half arranged to talk to Tony in regards to everything. So we met him, spoke to him, and he was just the loveliest person that he is.
Yeah, he's always been very enthusiastic. I think a part of it is because he's always been really positive about the way that we work. Like, he's always spoken really highly about the work ethic that we try to, execute on a fairly daily basis. And also, I think he quite likes, everyone that you work with, you sometimes think they like your music, but I genuinely get the impression from them they actually digs it. So
yeah, well, it definitely at least feels like they care.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think everyone that's sort of working in these realms are big music fans, or even musicians and artists themselves. So, I think people are very, very invested when they see talent and skill and direction and things. So yeah.
And then I think we met Scott Lewis in that process as well. It was also absolutely wonderful. And then after working on the That's My Ego vinyl release, which came with like a whole sort of plethora of stuff, like we ended up going on tour with Life, and that was just the best thing ever. Hi guys from Life, we love you. And so that all came kind of with it, or I don't know whether it was just by chance, but
yeah, it felt like everything sort of snowballed together once we started working with them. Like a few more things. The Live thing was a real. I remember even like the Blinded Sports. That, but I think it all kind of snowballed into a really kind of happy roller coaster few months. That was really, really exciting for us as a band. Yeah, the Live tour in particular was. It definitely felt like kind of going up a gear. In terms of live.
And they were also lovely to us, and I think it's something that goes missed sometimes, is if you do go on tour or do a few dates with the band, is if they are as lovely as Life were to us and really welcoming and sort of wanted to speak to us, didn't just want to focus on the show but also get to know us. It really made it a great week or two, I think it was. And then from that, Tony introduced me and the band to Whiskers, who's obviously sort of like head honcho of Launchpad.
He's a bit of a guru in Leeds, isn't he?
He is. And then
Leeds guru. Tell him that.
I remember coming back from the first time meeting and be like, guys, like, so this Whiskers guy, go check out this band Forward Russia. I'm gonna really embarrass him.
Yeah, innit, that well. Yes.
But yeah, so that and then yeah, I guess I've met you, Linz, and some of the other guys from the Music Leads team. And we're then sadly just kind of got halted by coronavirus. But still through email and video calls and such, have grown like a really nice relationship with you all. And yeah, we're looking forward to getting back gigging, I guess, and doing.
So it sounds like, you know, this is something that I'm really familiar with as well, that the whole making connections and finding support through meeting people in person, through going to events, going to gigs, on conference, or what would be the conference, you know, and that's, you know, that's part of the Launchpad and Music Leads way is to bring those events, those panels, those discussions, those shows, like, you know, bringing bands opportunities. And, you know, the Launchpad program is offering bands opportunities and things, and obviously that's been difficult. We're obviously trying to do our best to keep some of that going and keep people connecting in different ways. But I think from what you guys have just been saying is like that that idea of just like chatting to people, meeting people, chatting to people. Obviously for now it's online, it's a lot of just drop us an email, but you know, Music Leads and Launchpad were also, and Come Play With Me actually do online drop-in sessions. So these kind of ways of talking to people, finding information, they're still there, and we're doing our best to try and make that possible for people. But it is a little bit more difficult. It's a bit less organic, but yeah, it's just sort of, it's taking a bit of refiguring out, and you know, you still have to sort of go and look for it. It doesn't just happen, you know. I think there's that idea as well, isn't it? It's like, oh, this tour just happened, oh, we just got that, and the whole point of, you know, doing these conversations is to try and like make it really transparent and like make sure people know how things can happen a little bit, because there's so many routes and things in the music industry, isn't there? It's quite,
there's so many routes, and definitely. I think it's really also unclear as there's the fairy tale way of progressing as a band or as an artist, which is, you know, the how, like, for example, how Oasis got signed, like they were in King Tut's, I think, and
Glasgow.
Yes, I'm not an accent, you can, but. And Alan McGee was there, and there was 7 people in the room, and he just signed them on the spot. You know, sadly, that is the kind of fairy tale story, and it does happen, but it's not happened to us. No, it didn't. What? No, but it you know, there isn't a one way to do it. I think you've got to. It sounds so kind of cliche, but you have just got to go out and speak to people. Like, if you pop up to me or Ru, we will reply. I mean, not that we're anything to be intimidated by, but the same goes for, you know, Tony and Scott Come Play With Me and Whiskers. Like, it is just approaching people, and if you show that you're passionate, they'll give you your time.
Yeah, that's definitely the main thing. Is like when you get in touch with these people, you know, you meet so many people in music that it's very easy to sort of just kind of slip through. So when you meet someone and you kind of have a feeling, you know, whether it's in your gut or whether or not it's in something that they said, that they could be someone who, you know, you could do something really kind of brilliant together with, and really make the most of that relationship. You know, show them that you're really passionate, like Joe said, foster that relationship, you know, get to know them as a person, find a real common ground, and don't just look at it from a business perspective in terms of like, you know, this is a good opportunity for me, but almost like on a more human level, in fact, of, you know, how difficult the music industry is. Sometimes it's just nice to know people that are speaking from, you know, the same kind of plane as you, and that feeling of, you know, less kind of shared isolation is definitely comforting.
Yeah, and you definitely as well, I think, soon learn or sort of pick up who is, and also that most people are really friendly. I remember talking about Unconference again. I was there, and one of the panels was Natasha, who manages Elephant Trees, who's a gem, and the lovely Mr. Rob Eaglesham, who manages Marskins. And I went up to Rob after in the bar above at Wardrobe, and got chatting, and he like, Rob at the time was, I mean, Marskins are obviously done amazingly, and they've just got they did such a great top 40 kind of run, and, you know, massive congrats to the guys for that. But I remember speaking to Rob, and this was maybe 2 years ago, and he, you know, not that it sounds daft because if anyone knows Rob, then they know how sort of down to earth he is. But he really took the time to speak to me and my girlfriend, and that's when before I'd even started managing these guys. So I wasn't anyone. I know that sounds really kind of, but yeah, he gave us a time, and I remember someone actually came in and interrupted to speak to him, which is obviously fine. And afterwards, he came and found us, or he said to us, "Look, I'm really sorry about that, guys. Remembered our names." And I think you quite quickly learn, oh, this is a really people's game. Like, if you can be a nice person, you can talk to people, you'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think another kind of element of that as well is just like, don't be afraid of going up to speak to somebody. Like, you know, if someone's short on time, I know a lot of the time when Tony's at something like this, he's running around juggling like a trillion and one things. And if you feel that kind of wobble in yourself, like, should I go speak to them? Just go up, speak to them, be really open, just be really honest and say, like, look, this is what we're about. You know, is there anything that you could really give me advice on, that you could help us out with? If you go up and speak to someone with a real passionate intent, in my experience, that person will make the time to at least acknowledge it, and then hopefully, you know, potentially develop a relationship with you from there.
Yeah, so, you know, I think that everything that you're talking about is that importance of networking, really, isn't it? So it's not just expecting things to drop in your lap. You actually have to kind of get out there, and obviously that can be intimidating, and that can be difficult for people that are more shy, or, like, you know, struggle with kind of social situations and things. So it's a tricky one, and I think I'm hoping that some positives of this whole situation is that it'll force people to be able to look at real life situations and digital situations. And, you know, we're offering the online, like I said, the online sessions, email advice. Like, there are all sorts of ways that you can kind of access in the way that you're talking about. And
Definitely.
Really is a really important thing to get across, actually, is that speaking to people and learning from people is one of the best things you can do. And it's a very Yorkshire thing. Like, I find it a very Yorkshire thing that literally nearly every single person you will go and speak to is nice. And like you said, you've just got to be a nice person back. Like, I think the communities that we're all part of are very much about people helping each other. You know, everyone wants to help each other. We don't have that kind of weird, generally speaking, that kind of ego-y competitiveness. And I think organisations are generally up for helping each other out and for the greater good.
Absolutely, it's not a competition. I think it's so easy to fall into the trap of, oh, well, what's that band doing? What's that act doing? What's that artist doing? And comparing to yourself. But it is your own, you know, it is you can only think about yourself, and it is hard, but definitely.
Yeah, totally. Like, don't get caught up in what other bands are doing, because it's really hard, especially hard if you sort of come from the same, you know, home ground scene or whatever, to see if you look at other bands and think, like, oh, why are they doing well and why are we not doing well? Obviously it's because someone from the cosmos has not picked you or whatever, but at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. So just sort of think about what it is.
Yeah, like I think to compare to that is we were at, I can do my ad. So the lovely people of the Sesh.
Oh yeah.
In Hull, we were doing the Sesh. It was actually our last gig right before we went into lockdown, and we were in the back room after the gig, and it was fantastic as ever. And Mark Page, Mr. Sesh, came in and was like, "Oh my God!" And this is now common knowledge, so it's fine. I can say it. But Bull have been signed by EMI, whoever, or Universal, who are an EMI subsidiary. And we know the Bull guys because we're all from York. Ru actually went to school
with Dan, and then Rory, who used to be in the band, but no longer.
Yeah,
is there.
But yes, and I remember Mark came in, and we all just kind of screamed with joy. We were like, "Oh my God, that's sick!" And it was very natural, and it's such a nicer experience to feel that and feel the pleasure with a band if they're doing well, than to go, "Oh, why are they getting that and not us?" So yeah, I think, just as best as you can, don't see people as your competition, see them as your allies, and especially in the north. And I ran out of battery. Where there is less, I guess, sort of infrastructure in time. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like, what you're saying there, like, really not comparing to other bands and other artists and stuff is a difficult thing to do. But I think, you know, from a funder's perspective, from a organisation offering support like Come Play With Me, Launchpad, Music Leads, Help Musicians, Arts Council, all of these people that are actually looking to fund or offer advice and support to artists are really looking for that, you know, uniqueness, but not necessarily like you've got to do something that's never been done before, because what you do won't have been done before because there's only one you or whatever, isn't there? So that idea that actually getting really kind of concrete ideas around your identity, your journey, your narrative, what you're doing and what you want to do and where you want to go, like that's enough. Like that's what people want to see, and that's where if you can get that across, like you were saying, when you just like chat passionately to people at the Launchpad conference and things, that's what comes across. And I think like owning that and believing in that is really important, but learning how to actually put that into an application form is obviously is another thing.
Yeah definitely. I think big honorable mention to all the band, but to Lewis. Like Lewis is fantastic, our guitarist, sitting down with me and sort of forming for applications a lot of the writing. He's just got a really nice categoric way of thinking, and so he's great for like getting jobs done. That being said, all of the band, especially for the Do It Differently funding, had input, and will, you know, I do ask quite a lot of the guys, because again, going back to Rob Eaglesham, I'm going to quote him. I remember one of the first things I heard him say was, "Mighty Sham." I know, I do just seem like his number one fan, don't I? But one of the first things I heard him say was like, "You're only a good manager if your band are working harder than you." And I thought that was great. I was like, you know what, you're right. Because when I first came into this, I did all the admin, I did all of it, and it suffocates you. There is so much little tiny things which you think would take half an hour, they end up taking 3 hours, and your day's kind of gone. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, well, you'll exactly, Lynn's but like now we have a wonderful app called Asana. Can we drop brand names? Are we going to get monetized?
Just do it, mate. Just do it. See what happens.
Oh, I'm the rock star now. This is how it feels. But we have an app called Asana where we basically like divvy up jobs to groups. So we all have it, and I go, right, you do that, you do that, you do that, and to balance it and make sure that everyone is pulling their weight really makes everyone, I think, feel a lot more just like that things are fair and that they're going towards more. So, but I think when applying for funding and such, if there's someone in the team that's particularly good with words, probably the singer, but not in our case.
Did I get my GCSEs?
Yes, you did.
It's a kind of writing skill though, because you know, obviously, like I collaborate on lyric stuff with Tom in Magic Mountain, but Tom tends to lead that. He definitely has much more of a lyrical mind than I do, whereas I'm quite good at interpreting ideas on paper in terms of funding applications or, you know, creative writing, and also Nesta, actually, he's done copywriting, he studied English at uni, so he does our web. So we've kind of got our own little niche writing areas in our band, which is pretty helpful. But
yeah, great.
I like that you're helping to dish up, you know, what's going on with everyone, because that's a really helpful thing. Because sometimes if people, you know, if you are working in a group, working democratically or under a dictatorship, it ends up, you know, it can be quite messy and it can be quite difficult. But I guess, like, you know, getting your ideas down on paper for an application is something that, you know, you want to make sure that everybody's sort of getting their ideas in or having a chat through it. Because, you know, for instance, with the Help Musicians funding, which we could talk a bit more about now, you to put together a vision of what you're going to do with that money and what you're going to best use their business advice sessions for. So obviously, if that's just coming from one person, that might not work. And like, you know, how did you put that together? And obviously, you said you'd sort of divide up things, but how did you decide what you wanted to do with the funding and the business advice rather than how you did it? Like, how did you decide like what you wanted to do?
We had a lot of meetings about it.
Yeah, I think we have. Well, not so much now, which is sad, obviously, because of Corona. But we definitely usually have like meetings fairly regularly, even if nothing is particularly going to come of it. It's good to touch base and everyone be on the sort of same wavelength, because we found that when we all sort of went off to uni, and a lot of us did come to Manchester, but there was a point last year where Joey was in York still and the rest of us are in Manchester, and it's very easy to miss things. Like Joey wouldn't know what this new plan was to do something for a song, because the rest of us all lived together, and so you just presumed that. And it was, it was completely not his fault. It was completely not our fault. It just sort of happened, and it was like, oh God. So I think communication is key. But how did we come up with the plan? God, that's a good question.
Well, what was your plan? What did you do or want to do with the application?
Say whatever you want, by the way.
Whatever I want. Well, I remember it was all based around the EP that we were working on at the time. We'd as a band, we've been working on a record that we felt was really exciting. It was a concept record of 6 songs that all segued into one another. So we recorded it essentially as one big long 25-minute piece. And it definitely felt like pushing forward. I think on a creative level, it felt like we'd really kind of, broken into some new territory. Although I know everyone will probably say that, but this time it's true. So yeah, I think the first thing for us was to make sure we could get that EP recorded with the wonderful Mickey Dale. So that was definitely the first thing that the budget was going to account for. We wanted to make sure we could not only go into the studio and, I know that a lot of the time when we'd go into the studio, we'd be like with Ego, for example, we were like, right, we're in there for 2 days and whatever. And even though we got the song done in like a day and a little bit and then recorded Gorilla on, there's that little thought in the back of your mind, which is like, well, this is the time we've got. If you don't do it in those takes, that's kind of, it's tough, basically.
There's a pressure, definitely.
So it was nice to go into the studio and basically say, right, we're going to book it out for these days. We know that we've got ample time here. We can go back and do more if we need to. I think we may have gone back. In fact, yeah, I know that I did go back and touch up a couple of things on another track, and we did loads of mixing and stuff like that. But it was just nice to go in there and know that there's no time limit on this. You just get it right. You get it perfect, which for DIY bands, in particular, working with such sort of strict financial constraints in the modern era, as bands tend to do, it is really difficult to find that kind of breathing space in a recording environment, at least in my personal experience. Maybe everyone else is super rich and goes on the road and just gets off the face, but that's what we experience.
Or records themselves.
Those are the only alternatives.
But we're very lucky. I think you guys have always had the same recording process with Mickey since not the first thing you recorded, but the first thing that we still have out today, and it feels right. We wouldn't go anywhere else, not especially not at the moment. That's where they like to be. That's where they seem to create the best stuff. So yeah, I think if there's anyone watching that doesn't know and doesn't sort of pay for this stuff or know the ins and outs, it's not cheap. To get a good recording is expensive, and so there is pressure on the time you've got in there. And also it's hard, like Ru says, to book out a decent amount of time where there's not as much of a time pressure. And so the money basically went towards this concept EP that the guys were sitting on, and everything that comes with that, the merch line, the touring, the
merch is definitely a really big one that everyone needs to jump on, because I remember we got a whopping load of merch maybe like a year and a bit before or whenever, and I remember Joe and Bex had to kind of convince us to do it because it was like 800 quid and we were like, shit.
Well, say that
Sorry,
that isn't really how it went down. He didn't tell you. We got there, and I think the guy he was like, look, if you do it like this, you will save money. And for some reason at the time, we were like, yeah, let's do it. So we ended up going that way and got back, and the guys were like, this is a bit more money than what you've spent more money than what you said you would. And I was like, it's fine, we'll make it back. It'll come back. And I guess you got to have faith.
Because we made it back and then made loads on top of it. And in reality, you don't necessarily notice it because it's like a couple of T-shirts per show, blah, 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 no stickers.
But that covers your petrol.
Yeah, basically. It really, really does add up. And you never really it until it just takes a little bit off everything.
Yeah. It's interesting you brought that up, actually, because thinking about, obviously learning how to create a budget is one thing, and sounded like, obviously, before you've applied for the Do It Differently funding, you guys are aware of what studio costs are. You've kind of, you're at a certain level where you haven't just never recorded before and things. So I think, with Help Musicians Do It Differently, they are looking for artists to be at a point where they kind of have a plan and they know how to record professionally and that sort of thing. But it's interesting that you talk about the merch, which is something actually we were speaking about in our team meeting this afternoon, and that idea that, looking for different ways to financially support you is really, it's really important. It comes from so many different areas, doesn't it? Whether it's actual record and CD sales, or it's merch, or it's a lot of people obviously saying about with the live touring and being like, oh, artists losing money for live touring. But I think artists that are DIY, that are, even mid-level artists, a lot of the time the fees are covering the costs, if that. So there's a lot of figuring out of like how to do this as well as all your creative work that you're doing. So it is learning. I think I think what we're trying to shout about is that there are people out there that can help with that, and obviously Launchpad is one of them. Help Musicians is a great one, and Can Play With Me and other things. And because you do need to learn about the admin and the merch, and as much as you need to learn about how to set up your gear really quickly on stage or write a great song, like, it's all part of the world of being a musician.
It's a massive combination. It is not one or the other. Like you say, you don't get loads of money through royalties from street. I mean, no one does, because but we're not getting thousands of pounds, but you get a bit every now and again, and you get a little bit of merch sold every now and again, and it just keeps you above water. So I think with merch, it's hard because you do need that initial investment, and of course, not everyone is fortunate enough to have that money. But I think the guys, it's hard because the
way we've always done it is the money that the band has made has always gone back into band, and then any money on top of it, we've always put in ourselves from like our jobs and stuff like that. So, I mean, for me personally, last year I would basically put like a good chunk of my student loan in, which is definitely not recommendable for anyone. Absolutely.
I'm not going to recommend that, but
don't put your student in, Linz.
If DVLA gov.uk knock on our door, we know who's round us out. There's not many of you. We'll work it out.
But yeah, like, the way I would do it is I'd put like a good chunk of that in, and then I'd work a lot on top of it. And whilst there was some sort of negative and positive things to come from that in itself, it's the kind of sacrifice that unfortunately sometimes you do just have to make. You do just have to sort of say, I'm going to work blah 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 these extra hours. I'm gonna
sorry, I've got to make sure my phone doesn't die. We don't want that.
Change the angle.
Does that work?
No, it's not twisted it. It's not rotated it. I mean,
you know what? I'm gonna hold it.
Joe, he's got excellent thumbs.
We're going selfie.
Longer, so I'm sure you can hold it for a few minutes.
But yeah, basically, the kinds of sacrifices that you do realistically kind of need to make, just in order to basically make it work. And it comes down to the choice of, how much do I want to, like, I think before we got the funding, I was very much prepared to basically, just chuck all the money that I had in the world at this, because to me it was like, it felt like a real kind of forward step, and something that on a personal level needed to just get out there for my own kind of benefit. But yeah, you've got to make that decision. Obviously, don't be silly, don't completely screw yourself just because you'll then have no money, and that then makes life pretty hard.
I don't want to be too broken, because I think a few of us have definitely been there. It's not so fun. So try not to and look for some support. That's the whole point.
It's I don't think it's well known enough how accessible funding is. Like, don't be wrong, you've got to get it. You've got to convince people that you've basically got to convince the government, or luckily the people who are in charge of this arts money, which people like Help Musicians and Arts Council are great, because they are given the responsibility of, right, let's find talent in the country, essentially, invest in it and give them a chance. And if you take that investment and you use it properly, you get free money, kind of. Like, it doesn't sound right, but you do.
Yeah, you've got a responsibility to do a good job with, but it is essentially there for you to forward yourselves, which is weird to get your head around, I think, sometimes as a musician, isn't it? If you're not used to like somebody being like, here's $3,000, do some music. Like that's for a lot of people that are in independent bands and artists, that's a big deal, and it is a big deal. We'll celebrate that, definitely. And I think having that idea of like like you were saying about convincing a funder to give you the money, that there's a couple of things that I'd say, and one is about sort of not persuading, but showing that you're doing everything you can possibly do. So like, don't just be like, oh, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that, if you're not already demonstrating the fact that you're active on social media, that you're looking for gigs, that you're seeking advice. You kind of have to like remove the risk for those funders to be invested.
That's it in a nutshell, to be honest. You've got to show them that. I think the attitude we often do it is like, look, we're going to do this without you. We're going to do this regardless. This isn't always the attitude, because sometimes you need the money. But I think in our case, we're always a bit like, look, we're going to do it whatever. If you want to hop on board, great. And, you'll benefit from it, but it's going to happen either way. It'll just be financially backed or less financially backed.
Yeah, and I think like you said with the application, like it's about removing that risk for those people. And one of the ways you can do that is basically when you do the application, basically just show them that you actually care. Like, don't just do the questions and give like one sentences or whatever. Like, I remember Bobby from Strange Bones once, like outside Fulford Arms in York, saying about how I think he was applying to like the Open Fund or something like that, saying about how he's really hoping he gets his fund, blah blah blah, whatever. He's completely like spilled his guts and poured his heart into it completely. It's like, that is what you've got to do. If you put naff or effort into it, the person who picks up that application is going to think, well, this person obviously don't really care, so what's the point of giving them this money? Whereas there's going to be loads of people that are going to have written loads of like not necessarily really beautiful things, but really sort of comprehensive plans in terms of how they're going to spend the money, and then also on an emotional level completely told you that this is something that they are really, really going to work hard towards, so they can do the best they can because it means something to them.
Yeah, it's a social business. I mean, it's not a business. We do it because it's an art, and we all love music, which is why we're involved in it. But I guess I have to put my manager head on them. It is a business, at half the time, and it's a very personable. Is personable a word?
Personalization.
Yeah. Good. I should have just said it with confidence. Personable. It is a really personable job, I guess, because like I don't want to call it a job. It's not a job. It's fun, but
it's just love, bro.
But like,
I always talk about, it is art and it is work, and they're two and we're allowed to say that art is work, and we're allowed as artists to earn money from that, and we should be, because there is this weird grey area that we're artists, so we don't want to make money from it, but also we're stepping into, or we're putting our music into an industry, which is a business. So you have to be able to like blend them together somehow. And there is that blurring of like, is it a hobby, is it a job, is it this, is it that, and actually like stepping up to professional level and sort of taking yourself seriously and making people believe that you're serious about it as well. Like, you should be able to earn money from it. You shouldn't have to always have like a full-time job and do your band on the on the flip side of it as well, and it's not sustainable to be like that. So it's got to be about reinventing ways of working, ways of like funding things, ways of being supported, not so that you don't work hard, but that you're working hard at the right thing, which is the music that you want to do.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like obviously if people are at the point like you said earlier, Linz, about I think when receiving Do It Differently funding, you sort of want to be at a kind of level, like, and I think yourself when you're at that level, or the band know, or the band, if you've got a manager, then they know. But also on that point, if you can get, if you've got someone that wants to invest time into what you're doing, hear them out, because I think people almost sometimes find it hard to believe, like, why. I think management is a very thankless job. luckily not from these guys. These guys do say thank you after every car trip, so that's fine. But it is a thankless job, but it's one that comes out of pure sort of hunger and care. So I don't make anything off it. All I get is the enjoyment of doing it, and obviously I develop my hopeful career in the music industry. So it's a passion project, but from an artist point of view, I think if you've got someone that's showing that their passion for your music or for what you're trying to do, hear them out, listen to them, because I think a manager or management is really helpful in that it relieves some of the weight of being an independent musician, so that the artist can concentrate on what the artist does, which is obviously make music.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I think, even not going to go into too much detail, but just to briefly say that obviously like through Launchpad projects, through drop-in sessions, through the Launchpad conference, all of those kind of things, we're trying to help develop music professionals as well as the music creators, like people like yourself and things like record labels and management companies and that kind of thing, because that whole infrastructure to support artists to be artists is absolutely crucial, isn't it? And I think you guys are a really good example of that. And maybe not making money from it to be able to pay yourselves and stuff like that yet, but that's just a not yet thing, isn't it?
Yeah, completely. And if it is, and the thing is, I think we all enjoy it enough that if it never ever is a not yet thing, if it never happens, I don't care. I'm not going to regret it.
Yeah, we love doing it. Enjoy it while you do it. Like, there's no point really stressing over it. Like, I know that obviously for some people there is a stress over like needing to really make ends meet, but like I'm pretty happy, doing something else like studying a master's or whatever, and then doing it on top. And if it doesn't work out, then at least it's not worked out, but you've done things in the way you want it to do.
Yeah, you've at least given it a good go, and you won't look. You don't want to be older and look back and go, I wish I tried being in a band, or I wish I tried managing a band. Just do it, and if it goes great, it goes great. If not, But I think just stringing it back to keep it relevant, and not too deep, but stringing it back to like Launchpad. I think a great thing that Whiskers and the Launchpad team did for me was point me in the direction of the Music Ally Creative Entrepreneurship Program. It's a bit of a mouthful. I just finished it, and Music Ally are a really awesome company who essentially give out music knowledge for free. So I did this program where it actually went on over like all of lockdown and summer, just through video calls. But I fell into this role like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I didn't plan it, so I didn't choose to go to music college or uni or anything. I did not know anything. Honestly, if one of them said to me, pass me my pedal, I didn't know if Joey meant his pedal or his pedal board, or I didn't know if the drummer had a pedal. I didn't have a clue. And you do just pick it up, and it doesn't matter. Like, you will grow into it, and you'll find ways, like Whiskers did for me when he said, go do this program because you'll benefit from it. I was then able to learn about just all the different roles that are in a label, about publishers, distribution, and you think that you have to know that when you come into it, but you don't. But if you're getting into it, I think Music Ally is a great place to start. But go and find that knowledge and go and inform yourself, because
a really good point is that whole just informing yourself and finding the knowledge, because there's so many panels online, obviously like Music Leads, even on the Facebook page, is always pointing at things that are happening and being like, there's this information out there, but also these opportunities and that panel's discussions happening, and like finding those. I think I just came across one today that was a free women in music course, like I was talking about. And you have to take it upon yourself to just get involved in stuff. Try not to be overwhelmed by it, obviously, but because you can't.
Yeah.
You can never do enough, and I'm one of those people that just goes, if I start it, I've got to try and do everything. And I think you've got to process a bit, haven't you? Like you were saying, you sort of learn as you go, and if you really want to do it, then you'll find a way. But
I felt so out of my depth, and it's fine too. Don't worry. And I think on that as well, if anyone that is watching or does watch at some point thinks similarly and like, oh yeah, I feel like that, just message me. Just message the band or message whoever, because yeah, the advice and the sort of conversation is out there to be had. It's not a special club that you have to be a member of to be able to join. But yeah, that's my advice.
Oh, we'll share the knowledge, right?
Yeah, share the power, share the love.
On that note, unless you've got any other particular things you'd like to say, or tips or tricks or anything like that before we go.
Don't give Ruben a suggestive question.
Actually, I do want to quickly go back to the thing you were saying about how it can be really hard for some people to go up and network and talk to people just sort of out their own, of their own volition, so to speak. I think the thing is, like, regardless of how like completely kind of cripplingly insecure you are, or nervous, or sweating bullets, or whatever, like if you can just push yourself to go and speak to somebody, send someone an email or whatever, that person will recognize that you are nervous, but not only that, they will also recognize that you're clearly making a massive effort to go and speak to them. If you are someone who's nervous and quite introverted and whatever, and they will then take that on board, in my experience, and hopefully try and help you in the best way possible.
Yeah.
And the people that don't take that on board and just sort of go, all right, well, naff off or whatever, they're probably not really the people to work with.
So exactly what I was going to say. If that's how they react, then you're not interested. And I think you're not interested, but yeah, you don't really want to work with them people, because they're not the people that are willing to give you the time to explain. Yeah, definitely. I think on a bit of practical advice, if you're nervous, go and talk to someone. Something I always do. So I remember doing it again on conference, when watching the panels, being like, right, I would take note of what each individual was saying. And if one of them mentioned a band that I knew, or if one of them mentioned someone, that I would just mentally note that and go, okay, that's something I can speak to them about. And I'd try, and then when you have that daunting moment of going up to someone you don't know and you've got to start a conversation, I try and just have like 3 things on top of my head that I go, right, I can talk about that, and then if that conversation dies, I can go on to that. I think everyone in general does, but me and Ruben definitely, and in the band, we all have everyone gets anxious, but we all definitely suffer with anxiety and sort of doubting ourselves sometimes. But you learn to deal with that, and it does get easier, I think. Yeah.
And I feel like you were sort of saying, like, if they're not going to bother with you, then just let it go, move on.
Oh, yeah.
And, if like you were saying, watching a panel discussion or something like that, maybe go up to the person that you feel most affinity with, the person maybe inspired you the most, or that's really got your attention, rather than just speaking to anybody. I mean, sometimes just chatting to anybody in the bar after the in-conference, whatever, is great, and that's fine. Yeah, if somebody's really caught your attention, make an effort, because that probably will lead somewhere or mean something to you further down the line, won't it?
Yeah, and everyone is a person. I think, like, I'm going to name drop Music Ally one last time. Like, as part of the program, one of the things we got to do was we got paired up with the mentor. So I got to speak to Gregor Pryor, who was a really cool guy. And then just last night, I spoke to Troy Carter, who is Lady Gaga's manager and looks after John Legend. And it sounds daft, but he was just a normal dude. He was just a completely normal dude. I checked his, like, I think I found like an Instagram, and he's there sat with Pharrell, and I was like, that's mad. That's absolutely crazy. But he is just that. Everyone is normal. Everyone is a person.
Like, it goes the same with people in bands. People might look like really sort of cool and whatever when they're on stage.
Or scary. I wouldn't dare come up to you.
And I support bands sometimes, or people that want to come support sometimes will really tentatively sort of. I think they expect me to froth from the mouth at all points. But yeah, like, people aren't scary. They'll eat the same kind of crap and wet the bed just the same as we do.
Everyone wipes the bum. That's it.
That's it. Just picture them wiping the butt, and in a vulnerable position.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's
great. We've really lowered the tone.
No. We should leave it before it starts to go a bit.
No, I think that's a really good idea. We'll just start a podcast instead.
Yeah.
I
think it would be a great idea. You've definitely kept me entertained, and actually this has gone on quite a lot longer than intended, but I hope people are enjoying it and getting a lot from it. So before we do sign off, a reminder to people that are wanting to apply for Help Musicians, the fund is currently open and the deadline is the 23rd of November. So yeah, and reach out to Launchpad or come to one of our drop-in sessions, which you can find free stuff.
Yeah, but apply. It's a great. I don't want to call it a company because it's not a company. They're a great organisation. And yeah, the business sessions as well are fantastic. And massive shout out to Help Musicians for all of that.
Plus, even if you don't get it, it's good just to apply to these kinds of things, just to get a bit of experience.
Oh yeah, and if you fail, just keep applying. Just keep applying. Obviously, don't do the same application. I'd try and tweak it, but keep sending in because they will respect that resilience.
Yeah, that's been a general theme from our conversations. I think, I applied for Help Musicians twice, I think, before we got it, and then. I know this. I talked with Sim Sim Walker right at the start of all of this, and he'd applied for quite a lot of. Because it's almost like you apply for more stuff, you're probably going to get more knockbacks. That you've got to be resilient and just keep putting it in and get guys, contact them, put it back in again.
Completely, it's not a personal no, and it's not a no. We won't ever give you the money. This isn't quite right like at the moment. So yeah. You just got to keep.
Yeah, and remembering to answer the question. Like that's, because you go off on one and be like really passionate about your project, but you need to come back to the fact whether you've answered the questions or not.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's doing an application is hard. Don't be there going, oh my God, why am I finding it so difficult? It is, it's not a breeze, but you get better at doing them. And I think just, be genuine. Like Ru was saying earlier, say what you actually think. Don't say what you think they want to hear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's so scannable. Like people pick it up easily. It's the same as in conversation. Like you speaking to somebody at a gig, and they're putting on like a bit of a cool guy thing with like, "You're right, boss man," and you're like, "Oh no, no." Straight away.
By the way, Lynn, before we go as well, you're getting some love in the comments. I saw Magic Mountain play last year somewhere. It was amazing.
Can't remember where.
I've got to say as well, the album is fantastic. So Lindsay isn't going to do this. I will go listen to Magic Mountain's new album, Weird Feelings. It's great. It's really, really good.
Thanks, mate. Well, that was partly funded through Help Musicians Do It Differently.
And there you go.
Circle of life.
This comes full circle. All right. Thanks for chatting to us. It's been
our pleasure.
Yeah, that's right, man.
And I hope we'll see you IRL soon.
Yes, hopefully. Yes. Take care of yourself and bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. This has been MTV Cribs.
Bye. Have a beautiful time.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.